Okay, that's cool.
I guess we can start. We got a bunch of people up in here
Okay,
already.
good deal.
Yeah. This is actually the first time I've done this.
Is it? Oh shit! I'm the
I'm
veteran. I
fucking
had no idea. This is like my
I'm
second or third.
Bro, I'm old and washed. I never do the fucking post game. But I
It's
knew
fun,
I was gonna
especially
be
when
up with fucking adrenaline. So I was like, let me give the
yeah.
people what they need.
I was saying win or loss, it was going to be good to talk about, and also this is a lot of fun because there's when the people tweeting in, there's a lot of good shit.
Yeah. Well, look at that. 159 people, couple on YouTube, mostly on the platform that shall not be named. Welcome to the Rundown, Game 3. Congratulations for sticking around, unlike some of the Pistons fans who, I don't know, I guess I've never been to a sports game, much less a playoff game, and decided to start heading for the exits with time on the clock.
There was a couple disappointments I thought from a fan base that usually is when the Pistons are good, that fan base is usually, in my mind, one of the tops, certainly in the East. Like that is a nasty place to try to win a game when you need to. And I don't know if it's the arena, I don't know if it's the time, I don't know what it is, but like that crowd was a little bit, to me, they came up a little bit short. Like they were very quiet. You saw Brunson at the end kind of look, cranking his head, being like, where's the noise? Like they got quiet earlier than if you're going to start it, if you're going to start fuck Jalen Brunson, you got to keep that going all the way through the game. And then, just like also, I don't know, man. There was a Brunson MVP chant in like the third. I think it was in the third quarter, maybe. Like it didn't last long, but it didn't get drowned out. It just they like, I don't know. This crowd was not what I remember these crowds being in Detroit.
all the reporters in the building on social were saying, for large parts of the game, the crowd was bonkers, and like at
Yeah.
times, like Pistons couldn't even hear the whistle, much less Knicks. So I guess it was crazy for a while. But I know if I was a Pistons fan, which I'm not, praise Allah, I would have been fucking shocked, right? Like Jalen Brunson's the clutch player of the year, and like what he's capable of, but game 1 and 2, he really was spending most of his time foul grifting, and then for most of this game, he was kind of on facilitator mode, chill mode. Like he was not pressing at all. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he was like, "Remember me, motherfuckers?" And then that was it. The game was over. Like that. Like shit. I'm shocked. I'm not even a Pistons fan. I forgot he did that shit.
I was thinking like if you're a Piston fan, like he has got to be one of the most annoying players to decide that you hate the most, because everything about his game is like the most infuriating. Like if you're zeroing in on that guy, like he's so smart, he's so shifty, he's so he had a layup when he went, wasn't past Schroeder or someone else, but he made this very kind of elegant, like wrong foot or offhand from the other side, and it was just so Brunson. It was there with that kind of Steve Nashy sort of contrary. And I'm watching this thinking like this is what it was like hating Trae Young like 4 years ago. Like he's not just someone you hate, he's so infuriating because and I enjoy being on the other end of it a lot more than I enjoyed it 4 years ago. I can say that.
There's definitely going to be a lot of Pistons fans he's on their shit list forever, just because just because the first 2 games, because of the foul grifting, and then like now this happening like that. I'm sure it's pretty cemented. But yeah, I mean, this is like there's just the crazy shot making from him and Towns.
Yes.
Throughout the whole game for Towns, but especially in the fourth from both of them. Like with like 5 minutes left, they finally started going back to the Towns Brunson actions. Fucking thankfully, they went away from it from a while in the middle of the game, and they remembered that Tobias can't guard Cat and Schroeder can't guard Brunson, and it was one of those things where like you could tell the pressure was kind of getting to the Pistons too. Because one thing when they were showing the replays of the wrong foot layup that Brunson hit, I was like, damn, he went one-on-one all the way to the hoop. There was no help, which is like during most of the game, there's tons of help, right? So they showed the replay, and who was in the corner, the strong corner next to Brunson? It was Hart with Duren on him. So like, it's not like the Knicks actually had the wrong guy in the corner, arguably, or not arguably. They just straight up did, and Duren gave like a fake stab at Brunson as if Josh Hart was not Josh Hart, and I'm like, yo, that was a mistake. Like if I was a Pistons fan, I'd be furious. I know he's Jalen Duren's like 12 years old still, so like he'll be really good. He's got plenty of time. The largest young person I've ever seen.
The motherfucker drank a lot of milk,
bruh, for real. But like, damn, like you can't let Brunson go one-on-one versus the Detroit guards, versus Hardaway and Beasley and Schroeder, who, God, we got fucking the full FIBA carried Germany on my back Schroeder today. That shit was crazy. But I'm glad we got regular Schroeder on defense at the end there.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I thought in this game, like I have not been nervous at any point in this series. I was not nervous in this game. I wasn't thrilled with the late game shenanigans, but like there's a lot that I think, as these sorts of matchups play out, I figure you're going to see more like why the Knicks won 51 games and dominated the league outside 3 teams, and why the Pistons are like a really solid group that won 44 games and hasn't done anything together as a unit. And you saw, like you're saying, like some of those moments. I mean, Jalen Duren in this game had, whoever wins the finals will probably throw away fewer inbounds than Duren did tonight. Period. In big moments, in random moments, like the kinds of mistakes that you're not going to see certain teams make. But the Pistons are going to mistake. It's a good first round matchup for the Knicks. It's a team that's forgiving. It's a team that is going to make dumb mistakes, and they did. You saw in the fourth quarter, they had 3 team fouls in the blink of an eye, and it didn't even really slow them down. Like they still, it's a road arena that like they're really boisterous, but like they don't have any history of success there either. So you saw like they were boisterous, but they popped kind of early. Like, it's a good matchup for this Knicks team. That is really, I think this has been maybe missed by some of the Chicken Littles who apparently expected just like a 4-game, 20-point-a-game sweep. The Knicks haven't been the favorite to this extent. Either you got to go back either to 2013 against the Celtics, and if you think that was a closer matchup, then you got to go back to like 2000. These Knicks have never been in this position. I think going on the road was good for them. They were a good road team all year. I think you saw the Knicks looked more composed tonight than they did, I think, in games 1 or game 2. Not only like emotionally, but also just like you've been kind of identifying with the offense, like running what they should be doing rather than devolving into, Brunson dominating to the extent that he was. I think this is a good matchup for them. I think this is this is how you want to bet into the playoffs.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I know famously among the most negative in terms of predictions, I predicted the Knicks to lose this series straight up. They can still do that. It's a long series, but I think what I underestimated stupidly, which plenty of people reminded me of was like, some people were like, oh, Tibbs is going to make the adjustments, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right, man, we'll see. But what I did brush off actually too much is like, okay, this is a Pistons team that like has teenagers, right? Like Jalen Duren. And then they're among the most foul prone teams in the NBA. And I know usually fouls go down in the playoffs anecdotally, and we saw a little bit of that in game 1. But I feel like in 2025, you're just as likely to have games like today where the refs are like, they're calling a ton of fouls. And I don't think it was I thought it was pretty evenly officiated. There was a lot of fouls on both teams to me.
I thought it was,
and like the refs kind of had like, I hate a slow game that's slowed down by refs, but like they kind of had to, because like these teams were talking mad shit. And I don't know if Stewart's not playing, I don't know if anybody on these teams are going to fight, but Paul Reed looked like he was ready to fight someone. That guy was wired. He had a great role player game for the Pistons until the Knicks realized, oh, you can't guard Towns. But he was hitting the glass. He was just mixing it up. But like you could tell, like these guys, they're going to be wired, and they're already foul prone in like random February Saturday matinees. So what's going to happen in the first home playoff game in their arena in 15 years or whatever, right? Like this is going to happen. So the Knicks did well to I think take advantage of that, but doing so without hunting it and getting out of their game flow like they did in the previous game.
Yeah, I thought the Knicks, two things really, really impressed me about what the Knicks did tonight. One was, I think, as a group, the Knicks wore the black hat tonight, and they wore it well. Like, they went into a hostile arena, the first time this group has done that. A lot of the pressure was on them. They didn't back down from it, but they never, lost control either. And you saw it coming from everyone. You saw it coming from the Pistons. You saw it coming from the Pistons on the bench. You saw that one fucking Ludnick behind the bench, I think right next to Jalen Rose, who Brunson was talking to after every stoppage of play for a while down the stretch. I like that the Knicks were okay, we're here for this. And they took it and they ran with it better. It's been a long time since you've seen a Knick team be in that position of okay, we're the veterans, we've been here before, we're good for this. And they were as close as the game was. One of the things that was also impressive to me about it was that there was never, and maybe this is a difference should the Knicks go on to win the series. I don't think the Pistons are going to go on a 21-0 run on the Knicks. I don't think they have that in them. I don't think the Knicks have that in them to give up. And tonight, the Knicks could never blow it out, but the Pistons would get it down to 5, get it down to 3, but the Pistons never were going up 5, 6 points. I thought that the crowd was going to be in it no matter what, but keeping it on that kind of equilibrium kept the crowd from exploding at any point, they wanted to.
Yeah, they were able to stop. It was definitely a game of runs for both teams for a while, and you saw that starting in the second quarter, right, where Hardaway Jr. at one point was 5 for 5 from 3. Dennis was 3 of 5 from 3, and then the Knicks went on a pretty big run for the standards of this game to close the half. Second half, Pistons begin on a run. Knicks be dicking around for the first 6 minutes. Tibbs isn't making a sub, and it kind of continued. But you're right, the Pistons couldn't quite close it. It's they couldn't get multiple players hot at the same time, and they couldn't combine that with stops. And that's, maybe part of that is an inexperienced thing. Part of that is also kind of just the nature of who's on their team, right? Hardaway Jr., as Knicks fans know, is a good shooter, but he's also really streaky. And Malik Beasley, I mean, he's more than streaky. He's had a Dante last year type year. But he was terrible this game in shooting. And, you don't, who are you going to rely on, right? You could rely on Cade, but Cade makes his living off of tough shots that he can make because he's really fucking talented. But it's hard to it's hard to make a comeback when you're down 10 off of turnaround 14 footers. It's just really hard. Like the math doesn't math in 2025 to do that. And that's always been kind of, I mean, Cade is still young, but that's always been the thing about Cade is like he's more likely to bury you. The mid-range game is impressive, but he's actually more likely to bury you with the passing, which we saw for a stretch there in the second half when the Knicks fucking forgot how to defend a pick and roll, and Jalen Duren had a bunch of great passes and finishes out of the short roll. But yeah, I mean, just when the Knicks have these different guys who can like string it together, and particularly, right, just have Cat and Brunson who can make their money taking tough shots, threes, twos, and draw fouls. That's the other thing nobody on the Pistons really does. Like, that shit is just going to add up. Like, the Pistons going to stay in front of Cat and Brunson. And, like, so every play was a bucket and a free throw or whatever. So it was an uphill sledding for the Pistons for sure.
And it's going to be, it reminds me a little bit of part of how Knicks Pacers played out last year. It was very fucking annoying to watch from the Knick end. Was like the Pacers clearly identified from the start, like the more we make this a marathon, like the better our chances are, because we're built to last that long, and they're really not, and they did. And I think that's part of why when you got to Game 7, like the Knicks were flat on their feet. It's not the same in the series in terms of health, but I think the Knicks starters. Like Cade is a mid-range like monster, and he gets to the line and he can create for others. But like if you decide, all right, we're gonna try to let Cade make tough shots, but we'll take our chances over 7 games against what we do. The Knicks starters had more threes than the Pistons starters did. The Pistons had 27 free throws, which is pretty good. Knicks had 29. Like if you're not gonna outline the Knicks, which you're not. And you're not going to out 3 the Knicks, and they did overall because of the bench production. But like, just the longer it goes on, it's going to be harder and harder for them to like repeatedly have success because they have one guy who makes, like you said, a ton of high degree of difficulty twos against a team that's going to make more threes and probably as many, if not more, free throws. I just want to point out, in case anyone listening read or had not read the Strickland Knick Piston roundtable that we published right before the series. One of the questions on the roundtable was how people would feel if the Knicks were to lose a game in the series at the buzzer on a Tim Hardaway Jr. 3. And I did, and most of the responses were like, "Fuck, why are we even talking about Tim Hardaway Jr.?" And there was a stretch tonight that I was like, if it comes down to it, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is lining up for that 3, I wonder if, like if that's going to be like a rapture kind of moment, or like you're about to find out who you really are, like because the way he was looking tonight, if he had been lining up for a game tying or game winning 3, I would have been convinced it was going in, man.
Bro, can we talk about the end of the game for a second? First, like, how come? I mean, maybe it's because the Knicks tend to be up more than they tend to be down, right? Just they won a lot more games than they lost. And a lot of the games that they lost, they got smacked, right, by the really good teams. And like, because in my head, I'm like, how come we never have some shit where it's like, oh, Campaign throws up some bullshit, and then fucking somebody else and then Mitchell Robinson throws up some bullshit, and like this shit that the Pistons did. It was like, Cade hits a 3, and then Tobias hits a 3, and then Tim hits a 3, and then the shot clock operator starts fucking making up rules and shit. Like what? what?
Tobias hadn't done a damn thing all night. He hadn't done anything.
That's true. Which is like average Tobias night, except for whatever it was, game 1.
And the funny thing, I gotta say, like, I died when I saw earlier today that there was a story that apparently there was a quote where Tobias Harris was talking about.
I saw that
because he was on the Sixers last year, so he's qualified, and he called the Knicks. He said that this Knicks team was soft, and I'm like, first of all, I don't know how many NBA players I would define as hard, but much Tobias Harris is from Long Island. Much respect, Strong Island, but. You are not the man to be calling out, especially based on your play throughout most of those 2 playoff series I do not recall last year or this year at any point being like, well, Tobias Harris is killing my team. Like, he has moments, but maybe be quiet.
Nobody in the history of the NBA has said that about Tobias Harris. This guy is famous for. If it wasn't for Bradley Beal, he'd be arguably the biggest bag theft, bag stealer, money grifter, whatever you want to call it, financial decision maker.
He's known for stealing money and for being Boban's like BFF. That's it.
Yeah, and he's a good vet for the Pistons team. So like,
yeah,
I don't. If I was a Pistons fan, I would not be like, oh, why can't we have somebody else? I mean, I would be like, why can't we have somebody else right now? But like on the whole this season, I'm like, oh, Tobias is a pretty good vet, right? Like,
yeah,
whatever. So, but like, come on, bro. Like, you can't be out here talking. I don't know, man. Like the whole, like you said, like it's always weird to me when any team kind of styles themselves as tough. I'll say the Pistons do play a physical brand of basketball, but the thing is, like, they pay for it. They're one of the worst free throw allowing teams in the league in terms of how many they take. And guess what happens in the playoffs? You run up against a team like the Knicks where everybody can hit free throws, and that's basically the game. Like, I know the Pistons themselves shot a lot of free throws, so it was pretty close, but like, I'm like, you're not tough. You guys just kind of hack. And to me, there's a little bit of a difference there. And I don't know. Like I was actually very worried that Paul Reed's tough guy act when Cat kind of came out and shoved him back. I was like
losing my shit.
I was like, I hope, pray to God that they don't fucking kick Cat out for this. Like, if Paul motherfucking Reed, who in the Strickland Discord, we were in conversations about like who should take Jericho Sims' role as like third big if Paul Reed ended up getting Cat out of there. I would have been furious.
That's still trauma from, I guess, 97. But like, anytime a Knicks star even looks at a role player, particularly in a big game, like because you could see Reed got up looking for it more than he would have if this was January 18th. It's nothing, but like, he could smell like, this is my chance to help us win the series, and he was going to go for it. I want to say for Cat, and I say this as an open and admitted Julius Randle fan, that this was the kind of game from someone besides Brunson, and not just him. I mean, Anunoby, particularly in the first. Like, I thought this was a great game as a testament to like, hey, these starters are really good for a lot. Like, for all the everything you want to say about anything with this team, is that they're pretty good starters. But Towns had the kind of game tonight that you really didn't get from Randle. You really didn't get on both ends. Not just he did it shooting. He did it on three levels. He did it shooting the three. He did it passing and posting. A lot of block shots. A lot of getting his big body just in the right place at the right time. A lot of rebounds, tough rebounds in big moments. This was, game one, Towns had by game score like the best playoff game of his career. And
he had a great game.
And then game two, he did not. And I think a lot of people would probably feel that like that wasn't just on him. That was also about decisions other players were making and things coaches weren't doing. But he really had, I thought, like the game that I was hoping to see from him tonight, particularly going back to October when they got him. And I wanted to know, like, is there a reason that this guy is going to be better than Randle? And I thought during the season he was pretty early on. And I thought tonight, like, yeah, that as far as a two-way effort, that was pretty awesome.
We got glimpses of the wonderful Cat we have, and we also got glimpses of the ghost of Christmas future, arguably, because like for starters, just the shot making from Cat on any given day, but especially today, is just like he the that's floaters and touch shots he make. Oh my God, bro, that spin falling, like guards and wings can't hit the kind of floaters. Yep. Like the only player with better touch than him, as far as I'm concerned, who's like above 6'5" is Jokic. Like that's it. Like he's just and Jokic does all his like push shots and stuff mostly from like a very steady base. Like I'm in my spot, I'm taking my shot. Cat is like, what if I was moving 28 miles an hour to the side, falling over, and I had to like bank it or swish it? And it's just that's the main, like Randall has moments on offense where he can dominate, but like this is the same kind of shot making we talk about when we talk about Jalen Brunson. Like this is like among the real hooper. This is like even in my dreams when I'm like a real hooper playing next to LeBron James or whatever, I'm not putting up that kind of shit because those are all just like objectively insane shots, and he just does it regularly. It's so crazy. And then in the beginning of the game, when he had 3 threes made in the first quarter, we were playing a little bit faster, which was great. Mm-hmm. And that allowed him to come as the trailer. And this is the kind of stuff, one of the things I've been asking for a while, because this is the same shit Boston does with Kristaps.
Yep.
That the Wizards did with Kristaps, the Dallas did with Kristaps. I honestly don't remember I don't really think we did that with Kristaps because he was mostly the 4 when he was in New York because he was still like 200 pounds. But like when Tobias is the guy on him and Duran's on someone else, the opposing teams are just never going to be used to like tracking the last man down the floor and then picking him up 30 feet away. Like it's just never going to be a thing. And like, you know, that's the upside you gain when you bring the ball up the court a little bit faster. And, you know, the downside is what happened. What was it, in the third quarter where Brunson was kind of dicking around and then Schroeder got a deflection and then we had the 8-second violation and you know, and then the general tendency of our team to get into sets very late and blah 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 blah. So like I thought in the first quarter Hart and Brunson did a good job of really pushing, and then Cat really took advantage of that. So that was just like, I don't think any team has an answer for that. So I hope we see more of that in game 4.
Yeah, there were 2 moments. The 2 moments that were, this is not to shit on Randall, but just to emphasize, like, I haven't seen this from a guy in a while. And the Knicks, there was the fadeaway late that he hit near the Piston bench, and there was also earlier in the half, he had Schroeder on him, and you could see Schroeder was going to try to, like, you know, draw the charge, and Towns backed him up to about like a foot or 2 outside the paint baseline, and it's the shot that, like, it's that mid-range shot that, like, is not always easy for a lot of guys, and he's so good at it, and I mean really good. I don't mean like Hartenstein's great at the floater good, which I think is fake good because he's actually not that good at the floater, but Towns is that good at that little, and like the number of times you see a big where you're like, if you could just pull up from 6 feet out instead of drawing the charge, he could do that. Between the fadeaway, like the threes, he's also Hart. It was a funny quote that Hart had earlier. I don't know if it was earlier this year or not, where he told Mitchell Robinson apparently, like, you get regular rebounds, I get the rebounds that like break teams. And Towns and Brunson, but like Towns makes the kinds of baskets also that I think like break teams, like, because he is that guy that, like, and I don't think Randall was this. So I think other than, you'd have to go back to Melo for the last time the Knicks had a guy like this, and now they have 2, like a guy who, when everything breaks down or when the defense has put you where it wants to put you, you have something else. You have some other card up your sleeve that you're able to go to that gets you the basket. And the Knicks have not only technically the best player in the league at it, as far as Mr. Clutch, but like Towns, I know it's 2 games out of 3, and if he shits the bed in game 4, you know, there we are. But I was really, really encouraged by his play and by all the starters tonight.
Yeah, I just I'll give some props. Oh my God. Sorry. I got the Grizz game in the background and John Morant just tried to dunk over someone and took a really hard fall. I hope he's all right.
Are they still winning?
Yeah, they're up by like 27.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I know. Weird. I'm
Sure.
not going to pretend to know what's going on in that game. But yeah, I mean, I thought Hart had a really good game. He, especially in the first quarter, did a good job of being a little bit more active off ball, to the point where actually in the second half, they didn't put Duren on him as much. They did in crunch time. Again, they went back to that, but there was a stretch where I have in my notes that Tobias was like back on Hart for a minute. And I'm like, that's just a testament to him and Tibbs kind of adjusting. So that was some good button pressing by them. He had some really big rebounds as well, especially he seemed to be the only, this is another thing I just got to get off my fucking chest. He seemed to be the only Knick player who knows how to grab the fucking basketball. I there was I lost track in my notes of how many times there was like an offensive rebound in a Knicks hand, or a deflection in a Knicks hand, or a loose ball in a Knicks hand, and they couldn't fucking corral it, or they were near the rim taking a layup and they just threw up some bullshit in transition. And it seemed like every other time they bobbled it, it ended up being 3 points for the Pistons. And which is a credit to, you know, the Pistons' own intensity. And like, we can quibble about their decision making. One thing the Pistons got is a bunch of motherfuckers who are probably running sub 4.5 40-yard dash times, and they're very quick and athletic. So they're quick to the floor, and then once they get the ball, they're quick up the court. But it was just it was borderline weird. Like it was to the point where if the Knicks had a regular hand-eye coordination game, they probably win by like 15. No bullshit. Like dead ass, man. It was crazy. But because everybody except for Josh Hart turned into the fucking spirit of Nerlens Noel, then like it was like they got all these runouts and threes that just resulted from it. And it was just fucking terrible. And it's just like, my God, guys, like get the fucking ball. It even happened at the very end of the game. Where Towns almost had an offensive rebound and it slipped out of his hand. I'm just like, yo, grab the motherfucking ball, dudes. That was my main issue with the starters today. Cat and Brunson definitely had moments of pretty bad defense, but I thought the other guys generally did a good job of getting their back. The Pistons also kind of just defend themselves pretty well. Like, it's funny, like I have in my notes a lot of times where it's like, Brunson, you have one job to follow Tim Hardaway Jr. and you just gave up in the middle of the play and now he's wide open. I have times in the first quarter where it's just like, Towns, can we just put like a single hand up? And he didn't do that. I have times where in my notes it's like, okay, so Mikal is like getting bullied by Cade, and then another time where it's Mikal gets blown by Cade, and I'm like, yo, you gotta pick one, dude. You can't be bodied and blown by, bro. Like, if not, what are you here for? Right. So he on defense had moments of locking in and bothering Cade and some other guys off ball. But he also had, in very typical Mikal fashion, some just like question mark moments. And it was the same with his offense. Like, he had moments where it's just like, oh, settle down and stop a Pistons run with a nice little 12-foot fade or something like that. And a couple of really big threes, actually. And then he had other times where it's like, yo, you can't get by Dennis Schroeder. You can't get by Malik Beasley. Like, you see these guys and your decision is like, no, I better pull back. Who the fuck do you think they are? Marcus Smart, dude? Like, get out of here. Attack these little fucking small dudes, bro. But then you look at his stats at the end and it's like 27, 3 on extreme efficiency, because the thing about bad Mikal games is it's usually he doesn't compound them with mistakes. When Mikal has a bad game, or questionable decision making, it's usually like he's rather do nothing than do harm. That's like his kind of guiding principle. So I mean, there are worse ways to handle questionable decisions than by just being like, all right, let me just give the ball to Towns and Brunson. So he just had a very up and down weird game, but I think on the net it ended up being solid, man. Like somebody's gotta, I mean, you talked about it, like you have Towns and Brunson doing the superhero thing. OG in the first half went crazy, and the Knicks don't have a lot of depth, so you need some other people to fucking shoot the ball sometimes, and it's not going to be Mitch, right? Like so.
Campaign had a big brief stretch early.
I literally had a stretch in my notes where it's just like bad campaign, and then the next line is good campaign. Like it's just, I'm like, damn, bro. Like I'm really not built for the campaign experience. This is too stressful.
It's tough. It's not easy. I was struck by a couple of things. I had a note too about how basically if OG's hands are not causing a deflection or getting a steal or blocking a shot, he has Nerlens Noel hands. Like he's incredible. He's like Kawhi at deflections and shit, but he's straight Noel. Like anytime I see him drive, or like the best case scenario is it's gonna go off the defender, but like OG's about to lose this ball, and like there goes the ball, man. It was just he's a beautiful player to watch, but he is the worst great athlete I've ever seen. Like the number of times where he just he like implodes at the rim. I don't know, man. He's weird. He's a weird guy.
I mean, he's historically like not just a bad. He's historically a terrible finisher especially when he's not dunking the ball, right? Like
it's like Charlie Brown. It never makes sense every time he goes. And if you remember the dunk he had over Embiid last year in the first round, like he has that, which that's me being Charlie Brown. That's where I'm always like, I see OG going in. I see his body. I know a little bit about physics. Like, I know how this should end. There's enough evidence to know it's not going to end well. But every time, it's like the Charles Smith replay. Every time I see it, I'm still expecting, like, it's going to work. This time it's going to work. And OG, man, he could literally spontaneously combust at the rim, and I would be less shocked at this point.
I think he's getting he gets very excited at the rim, especially in transition, and he just like kind of implodes. Because I think that stretch he had with Brunson was out where he was averaging like 25 a game. The rim stuff was he was dunking a lot, but his like non-dunk finishing was way above what it normally is. And I'm a firm believer that like just like you can have a week-long stretch of good shooting, you can also have a week-long stretch of good finishing, and that was part of it. But like you could tell, because I think he kind of knew like, I have to do this, right? Brunson's out, and we gotta like, he kind of took it upon himself to be a scoring lead for the team in a regular, predictable way. I think that kind of settled his brain, and now I know I'm like moving into the realm of armchair psychology here. But like when he kind of knows like, all right, I gotta just like, going slow is just as good as going fast. And when I'm driving and using my strength and these Euro steps and stuff like that. And today he definitely had a lot of moments where he was just like max speed, max effort, Hulk smash. And then that's when he just like tosses up some bullshit. And it's just like, no, dude, like you're so strong. You actually don't need max speed. You just need to bump guys the right way. Yeah. And thankfully he's so strong that like he can still mostly get away with that, because even if he bricks a couple layups, he's also just going to get fouled in the act a ton, because like a big ass dude like that moving that fast against a team that fouls, like of course he's going to get fouled. So like it's not a strategy that doesn't have a payoff, but hopefully as he gets used to playing with Brunson more and then playing in the playoffs for the Knicks, right? Because he's had plenty of, he was in the playoffs. He's not a stranger to this stuff. And like, I think we'll see the slow it down OG kind of come back. And that's when it's going to be big time trouble for teams because like
Mhm.
that's what we saw. That was the guy who not only does the shooting and the defense that we saw today, but also like the one-on-one stuff where it's like who on the Pistons is equipped to stop a player like that? Nobody, right? Because it's just tough. So, OG can discover that. This is not related to OG, but I gotta go back to Mikal for a second. What the fuck was that dunk, bro?
Which
He had a dunk that wasn't a dunk. It missed. And it just came, it was just it was a typical like Mikal frustration stretch for me because he had like the play before he tried to. It was one of those plays where he's like, "Oh, I could go at the 6'3" guard, but I choose not to." And then the next play, he immediately like goes up for this weak ass dunk, and I think Juan
was that
Hollins.
after all those deflections?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have Mikal. So he passed up an open layup, and then he got. They ended up calling. No, I think I'm confusing my Mikal annoying notes here. But yeah, he had the dunk that didn't go in, and there might have been some contact, but it's like, dude, like you gotta
Holland, I think that came up behind him.
Yeah, you gotta like play with. I know he's very risk averse in how he plays, but like you can't let these teams just get away with putting these bad defenders on you, just smaller bad defenders. Like it's and you can't just rely on a post up to do that. Like you got to go through them. You got to be able to do that. I know you can do that shit. I saw you do it in Brooklyn. Like maybe that's a project for next year, not for this year. But like, dude, like if you can't drive on Dennis Schroeder and Malik Beasley, like what the fuck are you gonna do versus the Celtics?
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing. Maybe that's why we get mollywopped every time. I don't know.
I think the existence of Anunoby is, you see, like
it helps.
you think about this series and you think about, okay, like if they were going into this series with RJ Barrett and Dante, like Cade's doing what he's doing. He's doing a lot of it against OG. Just the fact that he's there means defensively, and for them to have a guy like one of the big things that thankfully they're able to do in this series, that because of the matchups the Pistons don't really throw at them. The Pistons don't really have anyone who forces Towns to work on defense. No. And other than running Brunson around screen, and they could target Brunson, but like you don't have some star who's just getting the business. But the ability for like at portions of the game to be like, all right, Cade, here comes Anunoby. Like, I don't know how to quantify what it does, but I shudder to think what Cunningham's numbers would be if he was doing this against a player that's like 10 or 20% lesser of like what OG is on both ends, and what the series could look like if Cunningham had even that much more of an edge.
Oh, completely. Like that shit hurts. Like having OG just like on both ends, just like defending you and then running into you. This guy is a tank, and I thought OG did a tremendous job on Cade today again. And I thought a big difference was the other Knicks providing him a little bit more help than they did in the last game. In game 2, I noticed a lot of Knicks, particularly Mikal and Hart, were letting him go right, and Cade going right is kind of unstoppable. Like like the mix of his like comfort shot making and passing going right. The only time he's comfortable going left is if he's doing like a crazy spin move or something, which he does a couple times per game, and it always looks super cool. But normally going left, he's like terrible. Like I bet maybe I'll get bored after the series is done and calculate like what did he do going left after like an initial screen, and the answer is usually jack shit. Like like almost all of his mid-range pull-ups that he makes are going right. Occasionally in game 1, he had a couple of like baseline moves that were tough shots, but like here, like today, it was like game 1 where they did a much better job than game 2 of like as a team just like challenging to go left. Like, all right, you're gonna make some tough shots. We're gonna make it the toughest shots that you hate to take. And the result is he went 10 for 25, right? Like 2 of 5 from 3, 10 for 25. So you're looking at like 8 of 20 from 2, only 3 free throws. So like tremendous job by OG, and then everybody else kind of getting his back. And because you got to defend Cade as a team, and they're you aside from the stretch where Jalen Duren just like morphed into fucking prime Isaiah Hartenstein for like 3 minutes, like the defense on Cade was pretty solid.
Yeah, and I want to. Another question in that Strickland pre-series roundtable was about the fact that this is the second playoff matchup ever between Tom Thibodeau and JB Bickerstaff. Bickerstaff obviously ran the Cavaliers in 2023 when the Knicks beat them. And the question was whether like there was anything to take from that. The fact that the Thibodeau Knicks handled those Cavs pretty easily in a series where coming in the Cavs had home court, and I think they were seeing this fairly even. And one thing that I think it matters, and I was struck by it early in the game. Early in the game, JB Bickerstaff challenged a call. It was a foul on maybe it was Beasley. It was a foul on someone on the Pistons who was immediately like appeal. Like I didn't foul him, and it looked like a foul. I think it was on Towns. I think someone fouled Towns. It was pretty clear that it was a foul, but the player was really emphatic. And it was like an emotion, like Bickerstaff went for it. Like he appealed, even though it was like 33-30 at the time. It wasn't a good idea. And they lost the challenge. And the rest of the game, the Pistons didn't have a challenge. And there were a number of moments where plays came up that were closer, were more in the vein of like, well, if you could appeal that, you probably would, and it might have made a difference. And all year, consistently, and it happened again tonight. I don't know to what extent this is significant, and obviously it's not Thibodeau. There's a coach whose job is to tell him whether or not to appeal. But again, Knicks are the best team in the league at appealing, and that has obvious benefits. But also having a coach who I'm not having a coach in this case who would make the impulsive, emotional decision to piss away your challenge on a lost cause early in the game. It really did kind of matter later. I thought that was a big mistake by Bickerstaff.
Oh yeah. I will say there was one play late. Towns got called for an offensive foul as the screener with Schroeder running into him and
when he rotated 90.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe I gotta look at it again, but to me it literally just looked like Towns just like stood still and
Mike Breen was like that wasn't a foul.
Oh, that's big. So I watched the game on I watched all these games on mute with fucking some sort of calming music because I'm built like that, or some like old soulful music or some shit to center my chi levels. But I saw that shit and I was texting my boys. I was like, yo, I was crashing out. I was like, why is Tibbs challenging that shit? Like, this is it. But like, generally speaking, you're right. Like the Knicks, one thing the staff and Tibbs does great is pick and choose when to challenge. But like that was just such a like, it was the end of the game. Pistons had like a little bit of fake momentum, and I was like, motherfucking challenge. And then Cade scored right after, and I was like, fuck.
Yep. I could not believe how much shit talk was obviously coming from the Piston bench, how much both Brunsons were looking for it. I don't know how much the audience remembers Rick Brunson as a player, but he was not uncantankerous, and age has not seemed to mellow that any. Rick Brunson had a very open ear for whatever was coming from the Detroit bench, and there was mad chirping going on all night. And Jalen, I like it. I'm not complaining. OG had it too. There was a point late in the game where Ron Holland, they were going to inbound it, and you could see like Ron Holland was just pissing OG off, and it was his OG face that you rarely see. But like when OG gets, when they put him in Hulk, when you get him in the Hulk mode, and you got all the team kind of geared up. Yeah, it's something to watch, man. It's really actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think people forget like this. Nobody's gonna accuse this Knicks team of being tough or being cantankerous or anything like that. But just collectively over the season, like they do talk a lot of shit. Like Mikal talks a fuck ton of shit.
Talk shit.
He talked at one point in this season. He was like talking shit. Like he did it today. Like he hit the first three and was immediately talking shit after like the first three after he did his celebration. Like zero waiting to see if the Knicks took a lead, whatever. And then it got the best though was like, oh, man, I don't know why it's so fucking funny to me. I'm gonna have to just use this as like a response gif in the future. Was when Malik Beasley dunked on Cade and then gave him the Sean Kemp type point.
The Golden State fingers.
I was like, bro, that was the most disrespectful shit I've seen. And I couldn't even hate. I was like, that was fire. I was like, that's fire. Somebody go fucking score on Malik Beasley right now. That was what I said. I was like, that was fire. Yeah. Somebody go score on him right now.
You had to give the ball to OG after that. They didn't, but like you had to. Yeah, that was wild. That was pretty wild. That was one of those dunks that like when it first happened, I was like, OG wasn't even near and then you see the replay and you're like, okay, OG was in the picture a little bit.
Nah, that's gonna happen to OG sometimes because he's just a good defender. And Malik, when he gets a long runway, he does have a little bit of bounce. So I get it.
To OG's credit, he looked like he was going through the grocery line. Like his face he didn't respond in any way. He didn't look like he gave a single shit.
Yeah, average OG expression. I think he only has expressions other than that when he's like hitting big shots that like cause timeouts and stuff. Then he'll, especially in the playoffs, like then he'll show some emotion, or if he's like questioning a ref about a foul or something, which he doesn't do like too often compared to other Knicks or anything like that.
He's not the first player that Ron Holland has gotten under his skin, but like it was conspicuous. You don't see many like OG look like if that was a party and there had been drinks going around, that would have been the point that like either if you're OG's friend, you pull him aside, and if you don't know really people at the party, that's when you leave because you can see like this shit's about to pop.
Yeah. That is a apt metaphor. Josh Hart ended up playing 40 minutes, 46 seconds. OG played the most, 42 minutes, 49 seconds. Cat played 41 minutes. So the bench didn't play that much aside from Mitch, played 15 minutes, 15 and a half minutes. Mitch had a couple of stints as the solo center that I thought he was all right, but he wasn't like as good as he has been some other times. He looked a little sloppy, fouling 4 fouls in 15 minutes is as a buddy of mine on Twitter said is a throwback to younger Mitch times. And thankfully in the fourth quarter, I think he played much better than he did the rest of the game on defense. He had a key steal. He had some better possessions at the rim. We had a couple of instances of 2 big lineups. I'm glad Tibbs went to that. The first time it was 2 bigs and then like campaign led units. It was usually one of OG or Mikal and then campaign and then like Shamit or Deuce or something like that. Which is like on the one hand I'm like, yay, 2 bigs, so much size, but then I'm like, oh, everybody else is little, so does that negate it? But like one day we'll get 2 bigs with Brunson. We got 2 bigs again in the in the second half, and it
Yeah.
was okay. You can tell right now that's a button Tibbs is saving for when fouls cause him to adjust his rotations. And aside from that, it's not something he's affirmatively looking for, which fine, right? Like Josh Hart, again, had a great game. Not a ton of scoring, only 6 points, but 11 boards, 4 on the offensive glass, 9 assists, only 1 turnover, 2 steals, a block. Only 1 3 that was attempted halfway down.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think the Pistons did as good a job last time of forcing the Knicks to deal with the Hart stuff. And the Knicks, like I mentioned earlier, did a better job using him off ball and allowing him to like push the pace and things like that. You know, as a result of these guys playing so much, and a couple of double big lineups, Payne only got 9 minutes. Deuce only got 9 minutes. Yeah, he didn't play too much. So we didn't really, you know, we didn't see any 5-out units. We didn't see 2 bigs with Brunson. So, you know, Tibbs decided that for the most part, he was going to win today with the plan he's had for most of the year. And thankfully, it was a more optimized version of that, admittedly, at least for me, sometimes questionable base plan. It's like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to play Hart 40 minutes, if you're going to, you know, just mostly stick to your script, then have Hart screen for guys, have Hart bring the ball up fast, right? Like, do Towns, Brunson actions. Nobody can guard either of them, much less both of them, right? Like, go to the strengths of these units, so that even if the Pistons expose the flaws of those units, that might be outweighed by the considerable strength of players like Towns, and that's exactly what happened today. So, you know, I won't quibble too much and complain too much after a dub about Tibbs, but I do like some of the things he did in the margins, even if I did wish we got a little bit more shooting lineups, because I shudder to think of what Jalen Brunson would do to the Pistons if we actually played 5-out. I mean, I mentioned in that last possession that Duren mostly stuck to Hart in the corner instead of helping, and Brunson was just one-on-one versus Schroeder. That's literally what would happen if we just had a stretch of 5-out, like, except like it would be every play. So, you know, we could live in that dream home, but maybe not today.
I think you were the one in the round table who said something that like Thibodeau wasn't going to make any adjustments until game 3 at earliest. And I remember when I used to read comics, they used to be at the end of a comic book, there would be like the letters page where they would print letters and responses to letters from readers. And Marvel had a thing called they would give you a no prize. And no prize was if you identified like an obvious flaw, like, which there's a lot of these characters and stories would go back for 40 years every now and then, you know, something wouldn't follow the continuity. But instead of just writing and being a dick and being like, hey, you guys missed this, you would get a no prize if you wrote in and you proposed like an interesting explanation for it. So, oh, this looks like a mistake, but actually, if they liked it, they would give you a no prize.
Like, Peter Parker's bed was on the wrong side of the room, but clearly he needed to change the feng shui of his apartment in Queens or whatever.
Yeah, that wasn't Peter 6. That wasn't Earth 616 Peter. That was actually Earth. Yeah, that kind of shit. So all season, I have been hoping that I'm going to win a no prize with Tom Thibodeau, because it seems to me like what I choose to believe is that Thibodeau recognizes that you have to have a counter to teams who want to defend Towns with wings. And that the reason that we haven't really seen it is because he's saving it for basically once it became clear, which it did pretty early. And if you remember early in the season, when the Knicks got off to like they were like 30-11, you know, hot record. Offense they were beating everybody by 20. They looked really, really, really hot. And then Towns like kind of stopped posting up for like a few months. Things are kind of weird. I choose to believe that Thibodeau put it on hold because once it became clear that okay, we're getting Boston or Cleveland in the second round, like that's always gonna happen. I'm not gonna show any of my cards until I get to that series. I don't have to go all out to beat Detroit. So as much as everybody wants to freak out after a loss, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm not going to make the adjustments that everyone is screaming for me to make until the next round because I don't want to give Boston, who's probably going to be sitting around waiting for us to finish our series, time to just watch us do it. Do you think there's any am I deluding myself? And is Tom Thibodeau oddly like a really good basketball coach who just doesn't see this very obvious thing? Is there any possibility that like Tibbs is going to have some huge surprise for everybody?
I mean, I don't think so. I think he's willing to do that stuff. But like his hand has to be forced. So either by foul trouble on like the micro level, or like I originally predicted in our roundtable, which was like, I think if he's down in a series, then he'll be like, "Fuck, I gotta try some shit." But like, barring that, he's like, "No, we just gotta do my plan better," and that's kind of just how he rolls. But again, like I could be. I thought after game one, I actually thought I was wrong. I thought that's what happened in game one. And then he went away from stuff like the double bigs in game two. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just because Josh Hart was in foul trouble in game one. And it wasn't actually because he was saving a secret weapon for the playoffs or something like that. But you know, we're only 3 games in. So, and again, like this isn't, the Detroit team is solid, but they're not like the type of team that's going to make you fucking throw out your playbook. So,
right.
You know, there's still plenty of time in the playoffs and even in this series to see if Tibbs is waiting to just spring a trap card on someone.
Mm-hmm. Were you struck by, like, did you see anything the first 2 games that concerned you? Because I know you thought coming in like this is obvious. You thought the Knicks could or would lose the series. Did you see anything the first 2 games that made you feel any more concerned or doubtful than you had coming in? I felt like a lot of people seemed to lose, like people who were optimistic seemed to lose a lot of it pretty fast. And I'm wondering if you who were more pessimistic coming in, like, did it go the way you were kind of afraid it could go, or was it even different, like disappointing, but in a different way?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
It in game two, like their decision to like ignore Josh Hart even more, and then the Knicks' decisions to not do double bigs with Brunson, and then not play Hart less, and not change their substitution patterns. That was disappointing in the way I kind of expected. But the biggest thing to me that I wouldn't say it made me more pessimistic, but it was definitely concerning. It was just like the level of like just Brunson asshole play we got. Like he made a lot of shots and scored a lot of points to go with it. So it wasn't like the end of the world. But
Yeah.
like him just is one thing when he's good, but he's taking the rest of the team out of their rhythm. That's when I get like the danger sense, the Peter Parker, the spider sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the antennas go up, because I'm like, this team, the way it's built, I would say probably OG and Campaign are the only ones who, regardless of what's happening in the game, they're comfortable just being like, fuck it, it's Campaign time or it's OG time. Like McCall he's a real rhythm guy. Like
Yeah.
you know, he gets the ball in the flow and he's a jump shooter. And the more there's a team-wide cadence, the more he cooks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then Towns, for all his immense gifts, right? And this kind of gets to what people were talking about after game two, is like, he's not actually an initiator like Jokic or Joel Embiid. Mm-hmm. He's still somebody who is like most of his scoring actions begin with an entry pass or with him setting a screen. It's not just he gets the ball and then the possession starts. Other shit has to happen first. So when Brunson's calling his own number to the degree that he admitted he was, I'm like, okay, now we're gonna make life harder on Cat and McCall. And that worried me a little bit, but that was also so weird for Brunson. Like he'll always have a little bit of foul grifter in this game, but I've never seen it to the extent that, you know, those first 2 games, 6 of the 8 quarters, he was fucking around with that shit, just trying to like get Asar Thompson out of the game. And it's just like, I did have like an anxiety voice in the back of my head that's like, what if he continues this bullshit every game? But then I was like, actually, like, he doesn't. Like, at some point, the switch is going to flip back to, all right, I just need to score and distribute. Like, I need to just get back to the real hoops that Jalen Brunson does, the more ethical hoops. And thankfully tonight he did that. So that part of my anxiety brain is quieted for now.
Yeah, they said, I think on Zach Lowe's show, he said that I think the first 2 games Brunson drew 25 fouls on Pistons, and which is basically fouling out 2 Pistons a game, and that no other Knick had drawn more than like 5. So there was something those first 2 games that were just a little different. They looked more like the team that I saw most of the season is more what I saw tonight.
Yeah.
Especially on the road, especially like this team all season, when they went on the road and like they had to win a game on the road, tough game late on the road, they tend to win these games on the road. And if they're up going into the 4th, which I believe they were tonight, but like 10, like they've got a pretty striking record at closing those games out.
Yeah, agreed. This was a little bit more vintage 2025 Knicks, not without the weirdness that is also part of the season, but like it was just more of that balanced attack, right? Like that's the whole thing that like every TNT and ESPN broadcast of the Knicks always loves to show every time the Knicks play well, which is like, oh, look at the Knicks, 4 20-point scores. Also, Jalen Brunson shot 100% in the clutch again. Like that's when the Knicks offense is, you know, rolling. And I don't know if I would say it was rolling today, but it was definitely rolling for stretches. 118 points
compared to game 2, it was rolling.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like 47, 38, 90 slash line. Only 9 turnovers. So like they could have scored more. Brunson only went 1 of 7 from 3. Hart didn't take any threes. The bench didn't give him any scoring, but 118 points, not shabby at all, especially versus the Pistons defense.
Yep.
You know, I thought the Knicks defense was actually, it was almost like they like good defense overall with an asterisk, because I mentioned it before, but like all those fucking loose balls and bobbles and all that shit that led to like 10, 15, 20 points. I'm like, yes, you could put that under the umbrella of bad defense, but it's hard to play defense when you're facing a moving team, a transition team like that. So I guess the more appropriate way to describe it was when the Knicks were set, their defense was really good. And then otherwise it was a little bit shaky. So Detroit ended up scoring 116, but I think a disproportionate share, I'd have to check the numbers, but a big share of that was off of turnovers, offensive rebounds, and transition. And then the weird late game, like Hail Marys that kind of just cashed in repeatedly. So despite the 116 points, like I thought this this was closer to the defense we saw later in the year, where it's, nobody's going to confuse it with a top 5 defense, but it was at least respectable, right? Like OG is going to make life hard. And sure, Brunson and McCall might have brain farts, but for the most part, guys are going to give a good effort and sort of mostly know where to go.
Yeah, it was big tonight. I thought that despite the fact that Mitch and Towns both finished with 4 fouls, they were never really, Mitch to some extent was a little, but like the Knick bigs were not really limited by fouls. And this is a night that I would not have wanted to need like 15 minutes from Precious Achiuwa. Like this was a big night that I thought that those guys, Towns especially, Towns had a foul. Oh God, somebody was somebody had the ball like near the corner. There were no threat. They weren't even looking toward the hoop, and Towns, like it was such a Kurt Thomas foul, and I was ready to snap because that was the one thing that concerned me was if Towns, especially Towns, got a 5th foul, early. Mm-hmm. But credit to both bigs. I mean, Mitch obviously played a lot fewer minutes, but like, Mitch got 4, I think, late in the third, and then Thibodeau pulled him. It was like 18 seconds so he brought in Towns just for the last offensive possession. And then I was surprised because he had Mitch right back out to start the 4th, but Mitch didn't pick up another foul, and his box score, he wasn't player of the game. His box score wasn't anything special, but like there were moments where Mitchell Robinson was out there in a way that Precious Achiuwa can't be, just by being out there, and that was big for them.
Oh yeah, again, this is not. I wouldn't give Mitch an A for today by his own standards, but even a B- Mitch game might as well be a fucking plus compared to Precious, unless you get one of those like once every month games where his like jump hook seems to be falling for no reason and he's locked in on defense and stuff like that. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to mention that I thought was cool that the Knicks did on Cade. I'm just like looking at random highlights and stuff now. They did a little bit of ball denial, which I thought was nice. Just not only saying, all right, when Cade gets the ball, we're gonna make him try to go to his weak hand, but we're also gonna make it take longer for him to get the ball or make them give the ball to someone else entirely. So
yeah,
that is something that Bridges, I think, is actually pretty good at. Because it requires, you can just be like long and in the way, right?
Yeah,
you don't have to necessarily worry about like getting bullied or fouling. And OG did that too. He's good at it for the same reason.
Yeah, he did it too.
And I thought it was smart. You want to make the other Pistons make plays. In the first half, the Knicks did a good job of like getting it out of Cade's hands far from the hoop, or making Cade take a long time to get the ball, and then rotating behind. In the second half, they didn't do as great of a job, but it was okay anyway. After after Jalen Duren had all those assists and dunks and they called a timeout and settled down, things were okay. So that seemed like it. I bring it up because it seems like it was one of those intentional things where Tibbs was like, we're not going to make it quite as easy for you to get the ball. And it's little things like that. It's funny because I think it was in game 2. This is another example of Bickerstaff, of why fans of Bickerstaff teams get frustrated with Bickerstaff, is because Bickerstaff actually deployed the solution to that in game 2. He had guys like Schroeder come set the screens for Cade instead of at the 3-point line, like as soon as he crossed half court.
Yeah.
And Bickerstaff didn't press that button today. And it's like, dude, you already know the answer to this math problem from the last pop quiz, bro. Like, what are you doing out here? And the same thing with Jalen Duren. It's like, they went back to like only kind of ignoring Hart instead of totally ignoring him. And, so in that sense, I thought Tibbs had again, like you should outcoach JB Bickerstaff, and I think he was able to.
Did you see anything that you noticed as tangibly different in how the Knicks approached Towns being guarded by wings, either in terms of how Towns attacked it or anything that they may have done differently off ball? Because I would seem to be there were a lot of people writing before the game about that issue in particular, and obviously the shot distribution in this game was much more evenly divided than it had been in the first two. I wondered if you saw anything that you were like, oh, that's interesting.
I mean, a lot of it was just the simple stuff. Was like, all right, if they're gonna guard Towns with the wing, like, or in the first half, it was the trailer stuff. It was like, okay, he's gonna come up the court and probably be open at the top of the key because wings aren't used to picking up anybody out there if they don't have the ball, much less a center. Later in the game, it became like in the minutes without Brunson, they were like, all right, we're just gonna give it to Towns versus Tobias or Towns versus whoever, Paul Reed. And then late in the game, they were like, we're going to involve him with Brunson in the pick and roll. So they definitely, you could tell Brunson and Tibbs both made a concerted effort where it's like, okay, we're going to get him the ball, in a variety of ways, taking advantage of a variety of his skills. So that was, I would say they did a pretty solid job of it. Some of the times, like we were saying before, like Tobias actually was okay, but Towns just hit some fucking bonkers shot and it like didn't matter. So, I wouldn't even say, like, on some level, if you're a Pistons fan, you kind of just have to tip your cap because some of the shit he did is like just crazy.
With Isaiah Stewart out, I don't know how long, but he missed game 2 and he missed this one also. With Stewart out, is Harris the best defender that they have against Towns one-on-one? Because Duren does not seem to have it to me at all.
No, Duren is. I mean, we talked about how fucking huge he is. That's also why he's. If anything, he could probably become a little slimmer, be lighter of foot. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for anybody to keep up with Towns, regardless of if you're 215, 20, 30, 40 pounds, whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like Harris, Paul Reed, maybe. I have no idea. It's not many good options for them.
No.
Their best option is to do what most teams do, which is like who you have on Towns is not going to stop Towns, but you got to take somebody who's on Hart and have them help with Towns. And then if that doesn't work, then RIP.
I thought it was a credit to Hart too that coming into when I know I had seen and read a lot about they should play McBride more because they need another shooter so the Pistons can't defend the way they've been defending, or they should play Mitch more because, which I do agree with. I think they should go double big more. But Hart had like 5 assists in the first like 5 or 6 minutes. Like the Knicks got off to a pretty good start. I mean, a big start on the road in an arena that you wanted to get off to a good start early. And Hart, a lot of that, I mean, he was the nexus of a lot of successful scoring players. And I thought it was a he gets overlooked.
Totally.
He really does get overlooked a lot. And I don't know anymore if it's that he's overlooked or if it's just that like that's what true love is. And like when you can trust someone, you don't need to like sweat it. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's true love. But like, he again was like, okay, the 4 starters. It's a cool stat. First time since 72 that the Knicks have had 4 starters score 20 or more in a game. And like if you lived through the 80s and 90s, like the Ewing years, like a little part of your heart finally felt some peace, like seeing the Knicks have multiple scores. But then you look down at the 5th guy and like he's not some schlub. He's basically getting a triple-double.
Yeah, he was good, and like that he caused Bickerstaff to not put Duren on him for a minute there. And you could quibble with whether that was the right decision, but like that was a classic kind of pick your poison situation for the Pistons, where it's like, all right, if you keep floating off a Hart, he's gonna fuck around and get 15 assists at this point. But if you do the other thing, and instead of putting Dern on Hart, you put Tobias on Hart, then that means Dern is on Cat, which is obviously beneficial to Cat for many reasons. So that's what you want to see, right? Like they decided, all right, we don't like what Josh Hart is doing to us. We're gonna kind of call a stalemate on the Josh Hart stuff for a little bit until later in the game. So Josh Hart, like, that's a credit to him. He did that without just shooting threes, right? Because we always talk about like the main solution is Josh Hart needs to be willing to shoot from three, and that's definitely part of it. But the other part of it, yeah, the other part of it is just like he just has to do stuff. If you have the ball, you have to make plays, and if you don't have the ball, you got to go set screens and shit. And he did a great job of that in that first quarter. And in that first quarter, like if it wasn't for the bobbles and the bullshit, we would have been up like fucking like 35 to like 15 or something like that. It was the Knicks. I don't even want to say like didn't get effort plays. That was part of it, but like some of that shit is just, you know, if a rebound lands in your player's hands and they bobble it, like, is that effort? Not really, right? Like they were there. Yeah. It's just like execution, I guess. I don't know. Like, so if they had just not had Butterfingers, it would have been especially, you know, you would have looked at Josh Hart's plus minus or whatever, which already was 5. And it would have probably been like 15 or something like that. And we would have been like, oh, peak Josh Hart.
Peak Josh Hart was also the very end. It was very hard and very appreciated at the time. If I recall, I feel like the Knicks did a pretty good job closing out like quarters and halves. And at the end of the third, I don't remember who missed the shot. It might have been OG. Somebody missed a shot. But Hart was like right there in perfect position for the putback, and it put them up 10 going into the fourth. And I just thought, like, it's just one of those. It's just a nice, for whatever it's worth, that nice little edge of like getting that last little bucket and going into the last quarter with just that added little bit of momentum. Like, I thought the Knicks did a lot of things tonight that compounded into the win. Like, it wasn't game one was nice because, you know, a 21-0 game-turning run is always going to be nice. But this was much more of a, like, it wasn't a wire-to-wire win, but it felt to me, I trusted wire-to-wire that they would win, and after 2 games in New York where I didn't, that was nice.
Yeah, it was good to see a plan come together, right? Like, like we had them at arm's length, and then when it was crunch time, it was like, okay, Jalen, do your thing. Don't be stupid about it, but do your thing. And it's like a comfort blanket for us, right? He did the thing. It was great. And aside from a couple of desperation heaves and the weird shot clock stuff, and perhaps it'll be interesting to see the last 2 minutes report to see if he got a backcourt violation or not. It was really hard to tell even with the replay. So I could see that kind of going either way. If I was a Pistons fan, I'd be like, fucking backcourt, are you kidding me? But whatever, you guys got an extra possession at the end of the game for no reason.
Well, also, what the hell was, I thought I was watching soccer. How many steps is Dern allowed to take on the sideline when he wants to inbound it?
Oh yeah, I don't actually know the rule, but isn't that what Josh Hart got in trouble for?
Yeah,
like,
you know, you can do it.
Ago?
You can only do Hart did it because he was conditioning. It was an inbounds under his own basket, where normally after you give up points, you're allowed to go up and down the baseline. So Hart, I think, just because he was used to that conditioning, like it was an out of bounds inbounds, and he moved and he got whistled because you're not allowed to. But on side inbounds, you can't take any steps. And Dern literally, if you're listening and you didn't see the game, find a replay. Duran literally gets the ball in front of the Piston bench. This is so, and this is what we started with. This took me back to in '99 after Allen Houston made the shot. There was still like 0.4 of a second left, and Miami inbounded it to Terry Porter at half court, and the clock didn't start for like a second, and I was losing even before the shot missed. Like I was screaming at the TV because this was, it was the Heat. It was obviously like, the Heat doing the most evil thing they could do in. So late in this game, I'm losing my shit when they give the Pistons the ball with 5/10 left. Somehow, Brunson misses a free throw, and the Pistons get possession of it, but no time goes off the clock because the clock keeper accidentally screwed up. Like, that whole thing is weird. So now I'm pissed because the Knicks now might lose, and they should not be in this position to begin with. Something wrong is happening. It's like what I see every day in the news is now happening directly to the Knicks, and I'm not here for it. I don't need to see bullshit. I just need to see this end. And then Duran gets the ball to inbound it in front of the bench, and he literally takes like 4 steps to the left, like up the sideline, and thank God he threw it completely out of bounds, so it didn't matter. But yeah, that was weird. The play with Brunson on the inbounds at half court, Breen said that the rule book says that you're allowed to have, if your momentum is carrying you, if you're not established in the front court, that what Brunson did is okay, that your momentum can carry you back if it's naturally going back. He was never established with the ball in the front court. But in a game where I thought, like you did, the officiating was mostly even in terms of, I think both teams probably got screwed the same amount, and both teams, were wrong the same amount. But Duran took those steps, and I was 20 years old all over again. I was losing it.
Yeah, I just pulled up the video. He took 2 steps to the left and then airmailed the
right
pass.
in front of it's he's right there.
Yeah, I suspect that one won't even come up in the last 2 minutes because it was like, the ball was not in play yet. So I bet if I don't know,
has no incentive in publicizing that shit.
Yeah, I was like, to me, the last 2 minutes report is like, they'll throw a couple of mea culpas, like, oh, we got this one wrong, but mostly it's just a tool for them to just justify.
He's not going to change, girl.
Right. So
I do think this is also, amidst all the excitement of like, wow, what a great win tonight. It's also like a big win in the sense that the Knicks are now up 2-1. Next game is, I don't even know what day it is, like Thursday. Next game is, I think, Sunday at 1, I think. And now Detroit's in a position where they basically have to win game 4 if this is going to, remain a series. And they got 42 points from Schroeder and Hardaway today, who combined to make like 2/3 of their threes. Like, there's no guarantee they're getting that again next game. Cade could play better, but like, this is a tough loss for the Pistons. This is a tough loss for a team where, like, almost, a lot of them, Hardaway shot very well. Duran was efficient.
Dennis and Hardaway shot 11 of 18 from 3.
Yeah, I'm saying.
It's not like, even if Malik Beasley, instead of going 2 for 10, shoots like 4 for 10, like, they went crazy. Like, Hardaway and Schroeder. And Schroeder's were like tough threes. They were like off the dribble.
They were. He usually has like one game like this every regular season against whatever team you like. I do love Schroeder. He's a fun player to watch.
He's gonna be a classic, like, in like 10 years. I'm pretty sure he's not like a straight because you know how like the Hall of Fame also includes like international achievements and stuff like that.
Right.
So at first I was like, oh, he's obviously not a Hall of Famer, but like, he's so crazy for Team Germany that, fuck, I don't know, maybe he's maybe he is somehow, or at least in the FIBA Hall of Fame. So like,
if he wins a title with Germany, I could see. I mean, even if he medals with Germany, I could see him like getting in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
He's had
either
a
way, like,
long career.
yeah, either way, like, he's definitely gonna be one of those guys who in 10 years, it's like, oh yeah, remember Schroeder? Like,
Yeah,
that guy was fast as shit, and he used to sometimes cook randomly, like.
yeah,
And
real.
he's not he's not a good defender, but he's also not like a trash defender.
He's not. The Green was raving all night about how hard it is to get Schroeder off of screens. I guess compared to most guards, and certainly for that team, like he is a guy. He played, I think, this year for 3 or 4 teams. I know he played for Brooklyn. He played for Golden State. I think. I guess he then somehow ended up in Detroit, and like this is the biggest minutes of their season and last 5 minutes of the game. He's out there. He's that kind of guy. Like nobody thinks of him in October, but when your season's on the line in April, he's out there, and like you're not hating that he's out there.
Yeah, especially if you're, like if you're the Knicks and you're like, no, we paid all these picks and all these dollars for our fucking starting 5, then like that's one thing. But if you're like a random team that's not quite at that level, then you're like, yeah, do I want Dennis Schroeder or Tim Hardaway Jr.? Give me Dennis Schroeder 9 times out of 10, or maybe 10 times out of 10. Like,
for sure, absolutely.
He's I don't know. I mean, I've enjoyed the Pistons all year. I'm not gonna. Their tough guy act is not so grating to me that I'm like they're on my shit list now. Like Miami Heat.
They're not like overdoing it at all.
No, and then like, they don't. Like I said, they don't really have guys who are fake tough to me. Like they have guys who are physical and try to like be up your ass on defense and foul a lot, and then they have Isaiah Stewart who is actually a crazy person. So
I think he's a lot of it for them. Like
a
whole vibe, a lot of that kind of like Jalen Duren seems like the kind of guy who like he probably has a Bible in his shorts like during the game. He just seems to me like that kind of dude. Like he's not coming after you. Tobias Harris is like respectable, but you're not afraid of Tobias Harris. Like none of their guards.
He's a respectable gentleman.
The craziest guy in the team besides Stewart is probably Beasley. Beasley's like 6'4". So
and even Beasley is like he has like a level of for someone who's had like a pretty hilarious level of like side quests in the NBA, like the whole thing with Scottie Pippen's wife, and then he went to like jail for a second and like
he came out. He threatened. There was I just read about this. That's why I know this. There was like a group of people going through some like tour of homes that were for sale, and Beasley was renting a house. And
didn't he have like a gun or something?
He did. This family, these 2 parents and their teenage daughter, like stopped the car somewhere near, and the next thing they know, they look up and Beasley is pointing a rifle at them, telling them to get the fuck off his property. And they leave. It's not even his property; he's renting it. But then, he got in trouble for that. I'm saying, like, but Beasley's like, and then they found, Beasley's someone that, like, in real life, I don't want to like just get in the car and take a ride with, but like he doesn't scare me on the court in that way. Like
he's also like, I'll give you like another more recent Beasley anecdote. Like at the end of the regular season, Giannis did something, and then he blocked the shot he blocked the Beasley 3-pointer, and Beasley fell, and then he did the Beasley 3-point celebration shimmy over him, and then Beasley like kind of gave him like a little dust up. Like a push. They were teammates, right? And then Giannis was like, "Come on, bro! Like I know who you are." And then after the game on Twitter, Malik Beasley, I forget exactly what he said, but it was something to the effect of like, "Giannis is right, but I'm not gonna let you do that." So like he has like that level of self-awareness where it's like, I know, this is basketball, and we were teammates, and I'm actually not Isaiah Stewart, but I'm not gonna let you just celebrate over me. Fuck you, dude. Like almost like how you would say it to a friend, right? Yeah. So that's the kind of guy Malik Beasley is, right? That's not it's more like it doesn't even get to PJ Tucker levels, but it's similar in the sense that like these guys have lots of friends around the league. Like you can't be a tough guy and have a bunch of BFFs. Like, come on, man.
Even when he gave OG the finger after the finger point after the dunk, it wasn't like, as finger points go, it was pretty mild. It was more like it was more a statement than an exclamation.
Professor's finger point reviews.
Rhetorically, it was a mild
finger
point.
No, I agree. So I think that's part of why I enjoy the Pistons, just because to me, like, physicality and motor and effort over a sport, like it's appropriate to be like, I'm intense. I'm also not a tough guy because we're playing a sport.
I think, and they're very. I mean, there's obviously Cade, but like Asor and Ron Holland are guys who they're not even involved really in a big way scoring wise, but they're really fun to watch just in terms of their intensity and in terms of everything that they get after, the way that they get after it. Like they are very.
They're
this
dogs.
is not the team that this is not the team that I wanted. Like I wasn't going to duck them, but I was very much like, until I think the Bucks clinched the 5 seed, the second to last game when they beat Detroit. I wanted the Bucks. I did not want the Pistons, in part because they're just they're a team on the rise, and I think Indiana is just good. Whereas I think Milwaukee, with or without Dame, is like a team on the drop. The Pistons are a very easy team to be like, happy and excited to watch and to think about for their future.
Yeah, and even this year, like their defensive statistics are really good. Of course, there's lots of young players, so some of that might suffer in the clutch, as we saw today. But they're generally making the most of what they have on defense, and they're athletic, like we've been talking about. And everybody's like, "Oh, who's their help after Cade?" Which I get, right? They don't have a true second guy, but at the same time, Dante DiVincenzo basically had the season that Malik Beasley had it, and we were talking about him. We were basically raving about how we just got a random season of prime Klay Thompson statistically, which was not completely incorrect. And that's the kind of player Beasley was this year. Does that mean he will always be that player, or he will be in the playoffs? No, right? The difference is Klay did that shit for like 10 years or whatever. But like it's in 2025, you could do worse as a first-time playoff team than be good at defense, have some guys who can get hot, and have a superstar. So I'm with you. Like I mean, that's why I predicted what I predicted, and I definitely would have preferred. There's definitely always a level of fear with a team like the Bucks, where it's like, yeah, they suck, but they always will have Giannis. There's definitely a level of fear there, but I think push comes to shove, I definitely would have preferred the Bucks, just because I'm like, they're not fast, they're old and weird. Like,
if
I don't have to worry about athletes.
If they still had Middleton, I might think like, if Giannis is awesome and Middleton, but like once they made the Kuzma trade, to me that was them like admitting like, yeah, we don't believe either.
Yeah. I just saw on Twitter that Macau's 7 rebounds was a season high, which is kind of nuts.
I want to see, he got to the line. How many times did he get to the line? He got to the line. He had 3 free throw attempts and 7 rebounds.
I bet you if you added up like rebounds plus free throw attempts for any game this season, this might be the high.
10 is up there.
It's up there, bro.
Let me see, actually, because I remember checking. I don't think he had more than 6 free throws in any game. I'm looking at Bridges.
Okay, Zach Zarba gave post-game comments on the possible backcourt violation from Brunson.
Okay.
And this man came equipped like a barrister of the court.
Oh, yeah? I can't wait for this.
He said, Rule 4, Section 6G, the front court, back court status is not obtained until a player with the ball has established a positive position in either half of this instance during the throw-in in the last 2 minutes of the fourth period and the last 2 minutes of any overtime period. So that's where we were, and Brunson and the trajectory of the pass were headed towards the backcourt. His momentum was taking him there. When he touches the ball due to that momentum, he's not considered in a positive position. So this is just, I think, one of those things that the rule was actually correct, and many people, including me, just have no idea what the fuck the rule is, and that it changes
it didn't look good
in the end of the game.
It wasn't a good place to inbound the ball. For those curious, Mikal Bridges had one game this season when he had more than 10 free throws and rebounds combined. That was in late March at Charlotte, a game the Knicks lost by 17. He had in that game 8 free throw attempts and 4 rebounds, also 6 assists and 3 steals, but not enough. So, yeah, this was among the most physically engaged games that we have seen from Bridges all season.
More, please.
Right? So, good win. The big one to get. I know, like, in theory, they just need to split, but obviously you want to win both. And as in any series, winning game 3 is big no matter what. Like, doesn't matter what it is, winning game 3 is a big win. And this was a big win for a team that is still just learning how to win big games together.
Yeah, if they can take the next one and then come back to New York with that kind of momentum and a young Detroit team looking at that level of an uphill climb, then it might be a wrap. So this today was the big one, and closer than it could have been for sure. But ultimately they did their thing. They were settled, composed, etc. From the coach to the players at the end of the game. And despite about 45 minutes of Butterfingers, they came away without any bobbles when it mattered most. So you love to see it.
Yep. And win early, because I don't think the Celtics are going to need a lot of time to finish Orlando. And you don't need the Celtics having like 5 days off between when they beat the Magic and when they play the Knicks.
Yeah. And shout out to everybody who tuned in for this. There's a lot of y'all out there. And like I said at the top, I never do the post games for us. This is a special occasion where you get me and Miranda doing this. So we know it's not lost on us how many folks are tuning in. And I was gonna say how many sickos, but it's just how Knicks fans are. It's just ours. I have after every game, I have like coworkers tell me like, "Why are the Knicks so dramatic?" And I'm just like, "Have you met Knicks fans? Like, this is just our state of existence, and don't try to shame us for it." So, shout out to y'all for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody.
All right. I don't have anything else. That was pretty much all the things I wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm. I'm good. Hope you enjoyed this rare double appearance. This is like getting a Mickey Mantle rookie and a Buffalo nickel in the same pack. You don't see a lot of Prez out doing these pods, and I haven't done it a lot either, but this was a fun one. This is a really, there is nothing better than talking about a close Knicks playoff win on the road. And as we said at the beginning, there was just a little bit to talk about in this game. I'm glad that we did get to talk about it.
I think this is the first collaboration between us since the first post of the Strickland about Rod Strickland himself. So perhaps it was overdue.
We are, in fact, the originators and emancipators of the Strick.land. We were there at the beginning, and we are here now after Game 3. And we'll be here for future coverage, hopefully quite a bit into these playoffs.
All right, y'all. We will catch you on other parts of the internet. Thanks for tuning in. That is all.
Peace, everybody.